Hello, hello. We are back in the paddocks, and today we have a little bit of a different episode for y'all. We'll be giving you a quick spotlight on Aston Martin's team principal, Mike Krack, and then give you a recent update on all things F1 in case if you've been living under a rock. Now, we're just kidding here. Now, in today's episode, we have Amy, Ito, myself, Melissa, and Chelsea behind the scenes. So let's get to started with what you need to know about Aston Martin's team principal.
Now, this is officially our last team principal to spotlight, like ever, unless there are massive changes on the grid and somebody leaves as a team principal. So let's get to going. We have the man, the myth, the ghost. That is Mike Krack. Now, I have tried to find information on this man, and I cannot find much at all. He was born March 18th, 1972. He's 52 years old. He's from Luxembourg, and he originally, as a background, is a motorsports engineer. He started his motorsports journey in 1998 as a test engineer for BMW. And as I said, I honestly can't find much about this man's upbringing, his education. Now, I even went as far as looking on LinkedIn for this man. Now, while I can find him, he does not include anything about his background. And so I can't really tell you anything about what he majored in. I'd love to kind of know. But he rose through the motorsport ranks through quite a few different roles, serving as an engineer for Sauber F1, Porsche's WEC team, and as the head of race engineering and operations at BMW. He even had a stint in Formula 3 before joining Aston Martin. Roughly 80% of his career was spent in engineering, which is kind of crazy to think about. Well, I'd love to be able to give you some more information on Mike. He just keeps a really low profile, which, if I'm being honest, is quite impressive for a Formula 1 team principal. There's just nothing on him, and I tried my damnedest to find as much info as I could. But while we don't have enough information on Mike to do a full episode on him, my God, is there so much F1 news to jump into. So Mel's going to kick us off with the first bit of breaking news we got during this Formula 1 break.
Now, it wouldn't be F1 without some chaos happening. During these little 2 to 3 week breaks we've been getting this season. Now, earlier in the week, we got some, if you ask me, heartbreaking news that both Joe and Valtteri will be leaving Stake F1 team Kick Sauber. That is a mouthful. After the 2024 season. I mean, it was kind of expected with Nico in one of the seats, if we're being honest. But again, it still hurts because who didn't love this duo? We'll get into who will be taking the final seat in the team in just a second. But this duo has been teammates for the last 3 years, and unfortunately the season just has not been easy for them as they are still pointless after 21 race weekends. That was a pretty harsh stat to read and write out. However, the team has made history, though, with Zhou being the first Chinese F1 driver in history, and of course with the icon Valtteri being on the team. I mean, who doesn't love that man? And while the future for both drivers remain unclear, we here at PGP will definitely miss this duo and wish them all the best.
Now, the F1 breaking news just really did not stop this week, and that is the fact that Stake, 5 minutes after announcing, more or less 5 minutes after announcing that Zhou and Valtteri were leaving the team, they announced that Gabriel Bortoleto was going to be joining the team. And if I'm being really honest, when I told Mel that I wanted a Brazilian on the F1 grid, I meant the other Brazilian, Felipe Drogovic. But you know what? It's fine. We're fine. Now, we will do a much deeper dive into Gabriel Bortoleto, but for right now, I'm going to just do a little elevator pitch background on him. He's pretty newly 20 years old. He was born October 14th of 2004, which is definitely going to make Fernando Alonso feel like an old man, which, I mean, he is, but that's a different story. Gabriel is the 2023 F3 champion, and for a fun fact, In this year's F2 season, he became the first driver to win from last on the grid and finish first in either F2 or F1, which is just kind of iconic if I'm being really honest. He is currently first in the F2 standings with Isaac Hadjar 4.5 points behind him. There are 2 races left in the season, so we'll see what happens for him. And for a fun fact, he is actually part of Fernando Alonso's driver management company, which, I mean, makes a lot of sense when you think about things. But obviously, Fernando had a hand in him landing this role, which, I mean, good for you. Your management team did their job. I am really excited to see how his F1 season goes, seeing as he did have a pretty decent F2 season. We will do a much deeper dive on him later next season, so keep an eye out for that. Now, to continue with the rumors and breaking news that happened in F1 this week, I don't think in the 12 years that I have been following and watching F1, I've ever heard of a team reconsidering their driver lineup after announcing their team for the incoming season. But that is exactly what Alpine is doing with their 2025 lineup. Currently, they have signed my favorite fluffy-haired boy, Jack Doohan. Granted, it is only for a 1-year contract, but apparently it seems like the menace to society that is Flavio Briatore is kind of reconsidering that choice. I personally think letting a long-time academy and reserve driver go is just a crazy move, but especially it's just a crazy move given the fact that they already let Zhou Guanyu and Oscar Piastri slip through their fingers to a rival team once before. I just feel like, especially given how painful that that Oscar situation is or was, it just doesn't make sense to do that with Jack. But I don't know. We're going to see what happens. Obviously, Jack doesn't have as much experience in F1 as Franco does, but like, it's just going to be such a bad look in my personal opinion. Like, from a PR perspective, the optics are just not going to look good. But only time is going to tell with what they're going to do.
I mean, not that it hasn't happened before. Teams announcing a lineup and then changing it. I mean, Haas, 2021 or 2 was it now? Can't remember. But it seems like everyone wants Franco because it isn't just Alpine, it's also VCARB. Because, as we know, they currently have the only open seat on the grid remaining next to Yuki. And Horner himself said, in a quote, he would be stupid to not talk to Franco's people about his availability for next year. And I mean, after his amazing performance in that Williams, I can't blame Christian Horner. And as a Franco stan, I want him to get a seat next year, especially as he can't go back to F2 and everything. Because after all, he's not a rookie anymore. But at the same time, it feels like I have seen this movie before. Cough. Nick DeVries. Cough. Then again, he isn't Nick, and he has proven over multiple races that he can in fact drive an F1 car into the points. Whereas Nick, in comparison, only had this one stellar performance at Monza. At the same time, VCARB and Williams are 2 very different teams as well.
All I want to say is if I have to build a team Norris Smith style from scratch for Franco, I will. I don't know where I'm going to get that loan money from, but I will because that kid more than deserves a seat in F1. At the very least, a reserve driver's seat so he can have a chance in 2026 because, I mean, he's been putting in work in that Williams.
Y'all know that Mel and I absolutely ride or die for Franco at this point. I don't know how he has done it, but this kid has wormed his way into every single Formula One fan's hearts. Whether like they love that or not is a different story, but like you cannot not love this kid. He's just so epic.
Truth. And I mean, I've been obsessed with drinking matcha before, I knew about Franco, but he has kicked up my obsession a notch, she says as she drinks a can of mate. But anyway, let's continue with the rumors. And another rumor we have is that Valtteri, now that he lost his seat at stake, will go back to Mercedes. Well, let me give you a bit of backstory. It has honestly been a rumor since pretty much it got confirmed that Nico Hülkenberg will join stake for 2025, meaning that there's only one seat left at stake. But ever since, I want to say like 2-3 weeks ago, those reserve driver rumors at Mercedes have kicked up a lot. Because he even said that he would be open to the idea. And while I can see him going back to Mercedes as a reserve driver, I mean, after all, he was an amazing second driver to them from 2017 to 2021. And he did say that he was open to it. I distinctly remember him also saying in the past that his time at Mercedes was a rough one. And that's why I'm torn to say that this would be a good move. On one hand, it would be an amazing way to keep his foot in the door. At the same time, because he said those things about his time at Mercedes, I would very much be hesitant. Especially because it also kind of gives Daniel to Red Bull / V-Carb last year, and we all know how that ended.
Well, I would love to kind of see Valtteri go back to Mercedes and get a better experience with the team for like whether it's his last year in the sport. I don't know. I just really love the way that this man has absolutely run with the what's next Valtteri question that he's probably been constantly asked. And he up and oh so casually did an Ironman at the villa that he's currently staying in during the break. And while we have said it a million times, and I know I have personally said this a million times, that he is going to go off and do cycling if he isn't in F1. But if, and this is a big if he gets the Mercedes reserve seat, I can so just see him casually doing Ironmans like between races just for fun, because why not? I do have to say I have absolutely loved his Instagram stories right now because he is just living his best friggin' life in Turks and Caicos with his girlfriend Tiff, and it's just so friggin' cute.
Also, for those unfamiliar with what an Ironman entails, let me break it down. It entails a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike ride, and a 26.22 mile marathon run. And just to illustrate how long that is, the swimming portion alone meant that he had to do 208 laps in the pool in his backyard before hopping on his bike. And for those that believe that didn't actually happen, he had the whole thing documented and posted it on socials. That's how we know. But as I said, these are mere side quests. What else can he do? Will he get that Mercy? Who knows?
Who knows indeed. Now, let's get into a little social media drama because let's be honest here. Who doesn't love a little drama when they're not involved? The Grand Prix Drivers Association, or also known as the GPDA, created an Instagram page. Now, a little background before we dive into this drivers union. The GPDA was founded in 1961 and created to improve the safety standards and provisions for both drivers and spectators. While it has gone through many changes, it is headquartered in Monaco with Alexander Wars as chairman and its directors Anastasia Fowl and, of course, George Russell. During this recent week, the union had created an Instagram page, just like I had mentioned, and just a few days ago, their first post was published. In the post, it was a letter to the FIA and the president, Mohammed bin Suleiman, to treat the drivers like adults amid ongoing controversy around the punishments for swearing. In the statement, the union urged the president to, quote, consider his own tone and language when talking to member drivers or indeed about them, whether in public forum or otherwise. Now, we've seen the drivers of the sport unite behind Max Verstappen after he was punished to serve community service for swearing during a press conference ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix. And then at the Mexican Grand Prix press conference, Charles was fined 10,000 euros for swearing as well. In the statement, they also stated, quote, our members are adults. They do not need to be given instructions via the media about matters as trivial as wearing jewelry and underpants. Of course, this part is referring to the 2022 Miami Grand Prix when director Niles Witch made it clear that jewelry wouldn't be permitted in the cockpit, and Lewis, of course, showed up to the press conference wearing all the jewelry possible. You know which one I'm talking about. Now, I must say, this is pretty iconic of the drivers to do, but my biggest kudos goes to George. That statement was beautifully written. If you get a chance, go read it because it's just like snaps to him the whole time. And I mean, what better person to be one of the directors than George? He just knows what's going on whenever something's going on. He's always there, and I love it. So hopefully the FIA will realize how silly the rules are, but I mean, we know how the FIA is.
I really wish that I could have been a fly on the wall during the writing of that letter, because I can just picture George going, no, say it like that, just to ensure the perfect subtle amount of shade is thrown in the letter. And I think mission achieved, George, if that was your goal. I just think this is probably the most mic drop moment I've seen from the grid as a whole in a while. I have no notes, guys. It was perfect.
So perfect. And the fact that it was written by George, who's always at the scene of the crime. He, dare I say, is the new Jensen Button, because that guy was also always at the scene of the crime. But what I think also happened while they wrote this was they had Seb on speakerphone, because we all know he would be so supportive of this statement. And he would also offer excellent emotional support during the writing and probably also after of that statement.
Now, while the rumor mill has been working overtime, we want to keep things fun this episode and talk about a topic that you guys know that PGP loves. And it's something that I personally will never pass up a reason to yap about, which is, you guessed it, specialty helmets and liveries. So we are going to start off with our favorite helmets of this season so far.
Now, my top 3 are in no particular order because honestly, these were very hard to pick and the ranking changes daily or every new GP weekend, honestly. But anyway, the first one I want to talk about is Alex's Panda helmet in China. While maybe a bit on the nose, it was just funny because it was so creepy when he was in the car, especially the placement of the eyes. Plus, that is what I love about Alex and his helmets. They always make me laugh at how clever they are. I mean, who doesn't remember his golf ball, for example? And that's why he's in my top 3, at least for this time around. Then we have Zhou in Singapore. Now, while Zhou is another one that has impeccable helmet game, I do feel like that I have to highlight Singapore, especially. And while it is true that most drivers just serve when it comes to Singapore, I mean, who doesn't remember Seb's 2012 helmet that led to a ban on light-up helmets? Zhou, it was just gorgeous. From the colors to using the iconic Singapore skyline as a motif, 10 out of 10. But what really clinched it for me was the image of Sweetcorn, his cat, on the side. Like, icing on the cake, 11 out of 10, no notes. And then we have a more recent helmet with Charles in Mexico. I just love the design, especially because Charles's usual use of red and white makes the helmet very much look like a skull that you would see at a Day of the Dead celebration, without making it look like cultural appropriation or making it look like a joke. Same goes with how it was presented with the mariachi band. It felt authentic rather than costume, which is a hard thing to do, especially from a European perspective.
Now, you guys know I love talking about specialty helmets for the weekends. It is my favorite thing to look forward to every race weekend. So picking these top three, honestly, was really tough. And I wouldn't say they're even my top because there's just been so many this season, if we're being honest. But the most recent one I do have to start off with is with Lewis's helmet for the Brazilian Grand Prix. The man literally waited until his second home race to bring out a special helmet, and man, it was worth the wait. Of course, it's in the Brazilian flag colors, which was just the way he did it was really nice. But the special touch for me was the Senna S, which many may not know. That is not an honor that many people can have because they have to go through lots of special permissions to just display the S. Such a fan of it, especially it being his idol and just how he got to drive his special McLaren and everything. Now, for my second one, I am going to have to agree with Ito's on Charles' helmet for the Mexican Grand Prix. But I had to mention Pierre's when talking about helmets for that same weekend. He had a sugar skull design as well with some extra touches. Again, appreciating the Mexican culture. I really love Day of the Dead, the whole sugar skulls and everything. Hoping to go to the Grand Prix just for that weekend. Now, I can't talk about Mexican culture without mentioning the man himself, Checo. He had a cool luchador mask for the Mexican Grand Prix. Obsessed, literally no notes. I just loved how he was like, you know what, I'll be different and honor my own culture in a different way. And indeed he did, because he even walked onto the paddock with a luchador mask on that was similar to his helmet. And I mean, if we're being honest here, the Mexican Grand Prix weekend took the cake for me with all the drivers and their helmets. I just loved how they touched into the Day of the Dead and the beautiful Mexican culture.
Now, I had so much fun with this. This was actually my idea. I had so much fun because I knew I was going to make these girls sweat trying to pick a top three. But like, I had to do it. I'm sorry. You guys love me anyways. Now, for me, my number one is somewhat unconventional. And that is Zhou Guanyu's Australia helmet. It's the fact that in the promo photos, he's rocking a mullet and a mo like Valtteri. I have no notes, sir. Iconic. Only you would think to do that. But really, with the helmet, it's the fact that he actually put Valtteri with the side profile of his mullet on the back of his helmet. That sent me into orbit. I was giggling the whole way, but like, it's perfect. There's the seafoam green. There's a little koala. There's a kangaroo. It's the details for me. He absolutely always crushes it with a helmet design, but this one is definitely one of my favorites, partly because it made me laugh, partly because it shows you how close he became with Valtteri. And like, I feel like you kind of know that they get along, but like the fact that he did a specialty helmet for Valtteri just says everything I needed to know about that driver pairing. Now, ironically, my number two is his teammate, Valtteri, but it's Valtteri's Monaco helmet. It's the ocean Mediterranean Sea theme that's just like so absolutely perfect. His lovely partner Tiff does his helmet designs, and she always does a killer job. We love you, Tiff. You are an icon. You are a queen. I'm so sad that we might not have him on a grid because it means that we lose Tiff designed helmets. I really hope that like some of the other drivers decide to like call her to see if she'll design their helmets because she's just so good at it. Again, it's the details for me. I'm a marketing and design girly. Like, that's what I look at. That's what I love. Valtteri and Tiff as a team just always think to include the little things in his helmet designs, and it's absolutely perfect. I never have a singular note for her. She can do no wrong. We bow down to the queen of helmet designs. Thank you, Tiff. My number 3 is Carlos Sainz's Mexico helmet. As Mel said, the Mexico helmets just killed it this year. Good God, this Mexico lid is just everything for me. It's what I didn't know I needed. It's gorgeous. There's the chili, there's the skull on top. It's the font choice on the side. You guys heard me yap about this and rave about this helmet in the Mexico recap, but like, I have to mention it again. It's just too good. It's so pretty. It's perfect. It sticks to his red. It was absolutely everything. Now we have to get into specialty liveries. You all know that we all love specialty liveries. You guys know that I'm absolutely obsessed with special liveries. And my number 1, hands down, there's no question about it, is the McLaren Senna livery that they did for Monaco. There is just something about this livery that speaks to my soul. It's perfect. Maybe it's because I'm a car girl to my core, but I think this is one of McLaren's best liveries that they've done. The fact that a one-off McLaren Senna that they named Senna Sempre, I think that definitely sold me on this livery, but like, it's beautiful. You guys know I love color, and I like something a little punchy. They've got the yellow, the green, there's a little bit of blue. It's just everything I needed and then some. It's perfect. Now, my number 2 is definitely going to be the denim livery that VCarb or RB, whatever the heck they want to call themselves, did for Singapore. And again, people, it's the details for me. The zipper that frames the driver, I have no words. It's beautiful. They had every little detail. Everything felt intentional. There's distressing. There's different types of denim. You've got like the seam stitching that's highlighted everything. They did not leave a single detail out. There are so many photos that are just so good. It was so close to being my number 1, but the McLaren Senna one just won out by like a hair. And for number 3, I am back at it again with McLaren. I'm sorry. I'm surprised. I know. I'm the Red Bull girl. Red Bull never gave us a specialty livery because budget. But McLaren consistently kills it with specialty liveries, and in particular, they crush it with their chrome. And this is the McLaren chrome livery that they did for Austin this year. Honestly, I swear to God, people, nobody does a livery better, a specialty livery better than McLaren, at least currently. I always love when they do the chrome. I like chrome in general. Maybe it's because I'm a car girl, but like, chrome makes everything better. So it should surprise nobody who knows me in real life that like, I absolutely died over this livery. They always do a killer chrome. I have no notes for your design team, McLaren. Keep the goods coming. Give your whole livery design team the fattest Christmas bonus at minimum, because they deserve it. They have been putting in work this year.
Oh, they definitely have. But at the same time, they're not on my list. Sorry. My list goes in no particular order, again, because it changes from day to day. It goes Ferrari at Monza. And while I'm not a huge fan of carbon fiber, to me it's a somewhat lazy way to try to make the car go faster by stripping the paint. The slight change up at Ferrari for Monza with the carbon fiber numbers was just chef's kiss, especially in combination with the matching race suit. And it even had the ability to make me overlook the HP logos that are still to this day an eyesore for me. And I mean, it made them go faster, that bit of carbon fiber, so thumbs up for that. And then, because it's so nice, we gotta mention it twice. RB at Singapore. Now, the RB livery, chef's kiss. While I love their regular livery because I am a throwback girly at heart, this just takes it up a notch with the throwback on a throwback, in my opinion, because it pays homage to their OG denim sponsors while also promoting their current sponsor, Hugo Boss. Plus the placement of things like the zipper or the patch at the back, no notes. Though it could have just taken it up to like a 20 out of 10 if underneath this unzipped zipper you could actually like see car parts a la a steampunk tattoo. But that's just me. And I see the girls nodding.
I absolutely love that. That's genius.
Thanks, Ames. Last one, Williams at Mexico and Brazil. Now, while I must admit that I'm unsure of the yellow on the Williams livery for the past two races, it's the heritage factor that does it for me. As per Williams, they describe the change as a nod to the team's championship winning heritage. Williams' car featured the yellow colors of various other sponsors between 1983 and 1993, during which time it's won 3 constructors' titles with Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, and Nelson Piquet. And of course, they also won actual driver titles during that time. And honestly, as a heritage girly, 10 out of 10. Plus, it doesn't hurt that Mercado Libre, a South American brand, actually became a sponsor after Franco got promoted to the seat in August. And this, for me, is amazing, especially because it highlights Franco at races where his fans are most likely to see him race because they were in Latin America, so relatively easy to get to for his fans.
Now, I'm going to be honest, I kind of forgot about some of the deliveries because my mind's everywhere. And it's kind of just like a second thought. However, now I know it's not a special livery, but it is one that I have to mention because I deeply, deeply miss the original Ferrari livery before HP joined as a title sponsor late April ahead of the Miami Grand Prix. I miss the Ferrari on the back wing. It was just so clean and so nice to look at. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm seeing the other girls agree, so it's clearly on me. I am not a fan of the HP logo plastered everywhere because it's literally plastered like a million times. Ferrari, if you guys are listening to this, change it up. We get it. You guys have HP as your title sponsor, but like 1 or 2 places, it's okay. Take it off that damn wing because it's so ugly. Like, let's stick to the classics. Hello. I can yap about this for like the rest of the night because I feel very strongly about that merger. Anyways, one that was really fun and nice to see was V-Carb's livery for the Miami Grand Prix. For this weekend, the team had introduced like a chameleon livery, which incorporated the team's regular paint scheme with a touch of teal and pink to it. Now, to me, it looked like a nice sunset scheme that you would just see at the Miami beaches when you're just, walking by. I really loved it, and looking back, it was really nice to see. Now, to round out our favorite liveries, I do have to mention Mercedes' special livery for this Singapore Grand Prix. To celebrate their 50th anniversary, the team's technical and title partner Petronas, the company's emerald green replaced the majority of the silver on the W15's front wing and side pod. And personally, I'm such a fan of this color, and seeing on that car was just a beauty to watch. That Petronas green is, I love it. It's probably like one of my like favorite colors to see, and yeah, it's just really nice. I'm getting like all giddy about it because we're talking about something else that I like besides Ferrari's HP ugliness. Sorry, I had to mention that. But yeah, no, those were really fun. And I don't know, I like when they incorporate like fun different little colors in there because it's just like, yes, be creative. Let's add some paint onto that carbon fiber because we know how paint adds on weight, apparently. Does it make sense to me? No, but I guess it does.
And to close out our episode, we have a moment of the week, I guess. And for me, it definitely has to be What's Next, Valtteri, and that whole little theme that he ran with on Instagram. He's still running with it, and I love it. Valtteri, if you're listening, please, please, I'm begging you, babe. I'm quite literally begging you, my dear. Put that on some merch, like ASAP. Get Tiff to design some merch for us because I know all of PGP will buy it, and like literally every F1 fan who has ever seen you race will absolutely eat that the hell up. Only 2 more weeks until race week. Stay tuned for our F1 Academy update that's coming soon. And if you aren't, make sure you are following us on all of our social media platforms. Everywhere we are Paddock Girls Podcast except for Twitter or X, where we are Paddock Girls Pod. Now, make sure that you drop a comment with what you want to see from us next on our socials, whether that's Instagram, Threads, Twitter, TikTok, any of it. Let us know what you want to see from us. We really want to know. We want to give our fans and our followers what they want to hear. So give us your ideas. We're more than happy to listen. And we will see you at the next race. Thank you so much for joining us in the paddock. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.